Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we're going to be talking about what the Washington Commanders must learn from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in 2024 in order for Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders to hoist a Lombardi Trophy in 2025 in San Francisco. Before we get into the content today, go ahead and click that thumbs up icon if you want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles and take down the champs in 2025. You know what they say, folks? In order to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. That's exactly what's going to have to happen next year in the NFC East. So go down there right now, click that thumbs up icon if you hope the Commanders win the NFC East next year. So one thing that the Washington Commanders need to learn from this year's Philadelphia Eagles team is that trench play is king in the National Football League, and the Washington Commanders need to upgrade on the trenches on both sides of the football. And the good news, if you're a Washington Commanders fan, is that the Commanders have the resources to do that this offseason, all right? Both on the offensive and on the defensive lines. I believe, with all the draft picks that the Commanders have at their disposal, they're going to have some they're going to have some cap space to use as well, whether it be via trade, whether it be via free agency, or whether it be via the draft. There's going to be opportunities for the Washington Commanders to turn things around along the trenches. We'll start with the offensive line because I think this is the more pressing need for the Washington Commanders heading into 2025. Brandon Coleman had his moments at left tackle, but certainly was uneven throughout the 2025 season. I thought Nick Allegretti was a disappointment overall at left guard this year, even though he was fine. Tyler Biadasz and Sam Cosmi, very solid players that I think will be back as starters for this team next year. And then Andrew Wiley is a cut candidate that I think will end up getting cut. So I do think that the positions that the Commanders going into this offseason are going to be looking to upgrade, or at least the ones that I would be looking to upgrade, are left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. All right, now that doesn't mean that Brandon Coleman, just because I'm not going to have him at left tackle anymore, that I just want to completely give up on him. All right, he's still very physically talented, and I think that he has the physical skill set to be a very menacing guard in the National Football League. What I would do is I'd move him to left guard to replace Nick Allegretti. I would have Nick Allegretti be the kind of the swing guard, kind of a depth piece along the interior of the offensive line, who has experience here with the Washington Commanders starting along this offensive line. But Coleman, I just don't think he marries his feet with his hands very well, which is something you really got to do if you're going to be a starting left tackle in the National Football League. That kind of stuff is not as important as for a guard, so I would use the physically imposing Brandon Coleman as the Commanders' left guard heading into 2025. As far as the two tackle spots and who I would be looking to go get, I would be looking to get Ronnie Stanley in free agency, all right? Whatever he's wanting in terms of a contract, if I'm the Washington Commanders, I want to go out and get Ronnie Stanley to be the next left tackle of the Washington Commanders. He has a plethora of experience protecting a mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson. He is a pretty decent run blocker as well. I think that he would be the perfect veteran option to plug in at left tackle to protect Jayden Daniels for the next 3 years plus. And then when it comes to the right tackle position, I think you got some options here, all right? If you want to trade for somebody, Jack Conklin is a right tackle from the Cleveland Browns that could be available via trade. Also, Armin Membu is a right tackle out of Missouri that I would have my eye on at number 29 overall if you want to take a tackle in the first round of the draft to start week 1. And then I also think Brandon Coleman, even though I think he'd fit better at left guard than right tackle, I think that he is the in-house option here in Washington if you want somebody in-house to play that position in 2025. Now we shift over to the defensive line here. And this, there's less holes on this side, in my opinion. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, we'll see what they do with those two guys. They have very large cap hits. They had disappointing 2025 campaigns. Of course, Jonathan Allen also dealt with an injury. Deron Payne finishes season out with an injury. So we'll see if they decide to move on from either one of those guys. But Cleveland Ferrell is slated to be a free agent. Dante Fowler is slated to be a free agent. Dorrance Armstrong could be a post-June 1st cut candidate. There could be some changes along this defensive line for sure moving forward. Of course, Frankie Louvu comes in as kind of an on-ball defender as well at times as a blitzing linebacker. But I would like to see the Washington Commanders bring back Dante Fowler Jr. He made some big plays in some big moments in some really big games for the Washington Commanders this year. He's not a number one caliber of guy, but I think that he is somebody that's more than capable of making big impact plays, and I want those players on this roster in 2025, especially if the Commanders are going to go and win a Super Bowl next year. So in terms of the true number one edge rusher that I think that this team needs to add, my number one choice by far and away is to trade for Myles Garrett. All right, I'm more than willing to give up 2 first-round picks and maybe even a little bit more to get Myles Garrett here in Washington. And yes, I am willing to make him the highest paid defensive player in the history of the National Football League. He is an absolute freak athletically. He plays with great technique. He plays with finesse, with power, and with speed. He's a great run defender, and he's a perfect fit for what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want to do schematically. They like these bigger defensive ends. Myles Garrett is the perfect fit for that, so I'm willing to give up 2 first-round draft picks and make him the highest paid defensive player in the history of the National Football League in order to get him in burgundy and gold. But let's say the Cleveland Browns don't trade him or they trade him elsewhere. The other guy that I would be pursuing if I were GM Adam Peters is Khalil Mack. He's a bit older. He doesn't quite have the sack production that he used to have back in his glory days, but he's still kind of that bigger brand of defensive end that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. really like. He's a really, really good run defender, one of the best in football, and I think that you can get him at a pretty decent price. Plus, Mack has never won a Super Bowl. He's probably going to be looking to go to a contender, so this match definitely makes sense. So what's the bigger need? Let me know down there in the comment section. Would you rather upgrade the offensive line or the defensive line? Now, obviously, you want to upgrade both, but which one is the bigger priority here in 2025? Type O if you think offensive line, or type D if you think defensive line. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know which trench you want to fortify this offseason. So another lesson that the Washington Commanders must learn from the Philadelphia Eagles is that coverage in the secondary is also crucial to defensive success. You guys saw what Vic Fangio and that Eagles defense was able to do this year, especially against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Yes, the pass rush was getting to Mahomes and making him uncomfortable, but the coverage was so good that they were taking away Mahomes' first read consistently. All right, so in my opinion, the worst move that GM Adam Peters made in his first year as the GM of the Washington Commanders was to give Cooper DeJean to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said this on draft night, guys. You guys will remember. We were live when the Commanders traded this pick to Philly, and I said, this is a massive mistake, giving this player to your arch rival, and he ended up being the number 1 graded corner in all of football in his rookie season. All right, you take a look here at this secondary, and the Eagles probably have the best secondary in the National Football League this year. Quinyon Mitchell, another rookie, graded in the top 10, and that was on the outside. Darius Slay had a really nice bounce-back season there for Philadelphia, and then their 2 safeties, Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, perfect fits for what they like to do there in Philadelphia. So you get that Cooper DeJean nickel player in there to take away tight ends, to blitz from time to time, to be an absolute game changer in the middle of that defense. And Washington, I hate to say it, definitely gave the Philadelphia Eagles their X factor and their secret sauce on defense, and that is very unfortunate. But I think that what the Commanders can learn from that mistake is that now they need to go get their third cornerback. Right now, you have Marshawn Lattimore, who I do expect to be back with the team next year. You have Mike Samerstill, who was a very good pick in his own right out of Michigan last year, but the Commanders still need to get that third lockdown corner to be able to really take away every single receiving option that an opposing team can throw their way. And my preference here is to actually get an outside corner, all right? Because what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. like to do, they like to get in press. They like to, go one-on-one man coverage, all these different things. And I think Mike Samerstill is just more of a better fit to play in that nickel spot. Just like Cooper DeJean is a better fit in the slot, I think the same thing about Mike Samerstill. And even though Mikey did a good job on the outside when the team really needed him to step up at that position, I think he could go from being a really good outside corner to a special player in the middle. And then I think that there's just people out there with better body types champs to be able to hold up on the outside in man coverage. Here are the top 10 cornerback free agency targets according to Pro Football Focus heading into this offseason. Some really good fits. Charvarius Ward, Carlton Davis, Byron Murphy Jr. are the names that really stick out to me. So if the Commanders can get one of those guys, I think that you can put Mike Sainristil in the slot, and then you have a really complete cornerback room just like the Philadelphia Eagles had in 2024. But if you don't get any of the top guys in free agency and you want to take a younger player to go alongside Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, Benjamin Morrison is somebody that might be there at the end of the first round for the Washington Commanders. Phenomenal in-man coverage. Trey Amos and Shavon Revel Jr. kind of the physical profile you look for in a shutdown number one guy. Then Maxwell Hairston is a pro-ready number two corner. That's probably more of a day two guy in my opinion. And then Azariah Thomas, another long physical corner out of Florida State that's probably going to go within the first two rounds. So shout out your guy down there in the comments section. Which cornerback would you like the Washington Commanders to add this offseason? Do you want to go get a nickel defender? Do you want to go get an outside corner and put Mike Sainristil in the slot? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. For me personally, I would go out and get somebody in free agency to play on the outside, putting Mikey back in the slot. So before I go here, what I'll say about the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl is, it bothers me that this team is the Super Bowl champions for 2024, 2025. I hate this franchise, ladies and gentlemen. I hate that fan base. I hate that fan base gets to celebrate this championship. But you know what, man? At the end of the day here, I believe that the Washington Commanders are going to dominate the NFC for the next decade over the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that this is going to be a phenomenal rivalry to come. But I hope that Eagles fans enjoyed this Super Bowl, because I'm going to tell you guys this right now. The Washington Commanders are coming, and I think that next year they have as good of a shot as anybody, including the Philadelphia Eagles, of hoisting yet another Lombardi Trophy here in the nation's capital. Also, give me the Eagles versus the Commanders in the opener, man. Thursday Night Football to start the regular season. Give me Commanders versus Eagles, a rematch of the NFC Championship game this year in the link. And I'm going to make an early prediction. I think the Washington Commanders take down the reigning champs on opening night next season. So if you guys want to play on opening night, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. I know I want to see the Commanders go up against the reigning champs to kick off the 2025 NFL season. If you're with me on that, click that thumbs up icon. Click that subscribe button as well, because we've made it to the end of today's show, but we got more Commanders content coming your way tomorrow and throughout the 2025 offseason. So to never miss any of our content, click that subscribe button right now.